What's up, guys? Hope you've all been doing well. I've received a handful of questions asking what it's like to be a software engineer. For software, it's pretty hard to provide a typical day by day. It really depends on where you work, who you're working with, and what you're working on. In this video, I'm going to go through 13 types of software engineers. First and foremost, this video is highly opinionated. There's no rules for these types. I just went with what I felt good with. Before we start this video and the hating starts, I just want everyone to know, out of all these types that we're going to cover, none is worse or better than the other. There's some pretty bad jokes out there like these types of software engineers aren't real engineers. You'll find that people who usually believe things like that are usually beginners, aren't very high level, or they're just assholes. Everyone likes to hate on things that they don't understand, and usually people think what they do is the best thing. Remember, to do any of these things at a high level, it takes training and discipline, and nothing can be discounted, alright? 13 types, let's do it. Alright, first up is front-end software developers who specialize in the code that runs inside your web browser. These guys know about the latest and greatest JavaScript frameworks, and they write the code that powers all those favorite websites you go to every day. Front-end software guys work really closely with designers, and they really make those web pages really responsive. Second type, mobile engineers. Mobile engineers are the developers that write games like Flappy Bird or Snapchat that you use on your phone every day. Mobile engineers also work very closely with designers. They care about every single little pixel, and they usually specialize across different platforms like Android or iOS. Third is game developers. These guys write the code for the games that you play. Most game developers specialize in a specific gaming framework. Different gaming frameworks lets you create games onto different platforms. If you want to create some desktop or mobile games, there might be a framework for that. If you want to create console games, there's another framework to let you do that. Most game developers really like playing games themselves, and they also get into crazy drawing and 3D graphic type of programming with OpenGL and using the graphics processor. Alright, next up we have backend and system developers. These guys really do the behind the scenes type of work. These developers are writing the code that usually powers the web page or powers the mobile app. This is the code that powers different APIs, powers different SDKs, manipulates databases. Backend or system guys write code that's really meant to be used by other developers, not humans. Developers are humans too, remember that. We're at number 5 now, application developers. Alright, this is a super loose term, application development, but what I think it really means is any kind of software that's being developed to be used by a consumer or person. Front-end or mobile software developers, which we just talked about, are a type of application developer. Application developers could create internal tools to be used by big enterprises, or they could just make that cool desktop program that you use every day. PowerPoint, Keynote, you know. Number 6. Number 6 is going to be data science, and this is a super trendy and really loose term that's just come up in popularity recently. Sometimes these are software guys, other times data scientists actually don't have any software background. A data scientist or data science engineer is anyone who wants to look through data, analyze it, and maybe come up with any patterns. The skill level is crazy for data scientists. It could be from really beginners all the way to PhD machine learning experts. Super trendy term, but probably won't be trendy forever, alright? Next up, we have one of our most underrated software developers, which is QA and test. These software developers are super important, and they develop software that tests other code. QA and test developers are usually a little less sexy than the other types, but anyone who knows anything will recognize that these guys are really important. Software engineers that don't know how to test their code are usually beginners, and I'm sure you'll realize that testing is what makes development faster. We're at number 8, and this is algorithms and science software development. This is probably the most academic of the types, and these guys read a lot of papers and turn really academic concepts and theories into real-life solutions. Think of the guys that wrote Google Maps, getting you from point A to point B in the shortest time possible. Algorithms engineering. Lots of numbers going on here, lots of fine-tuning and optimizations. Ninth type of software developer is the embedded systems developer. These guys write the really low level code that powers a lot of the hardware you use every day. This is code that potentially can run before an operating system even loads, and this is the code that the actual hardware needs to actually function properly. Embedded developers usually work really closely with hardware engineers because they're the ones writing the device drivers. This is the software that's making your keyboard, your mouse, and your camera work right now. Next up, we have Linux kernel and OS developers. This is a small group of people that develop the operating software that all our programs and processes run on. How exactly are different processes scheduled? How exactly do you switch between two processes? How exactly do you manage all the files in your operating system? A lot of engineers look past the operating system, but it's really important, and it's also super niche. We need the operating system to run any type of process, to run any type of program on our computers. Entry level into this software engineering is pretty high, and I'm not gonna lie, it's super complicated. All right, we're at number 11 now, almost done. This one is DevOps, or developer operations. This type of software engineer used to be kind of called the network or system administrator, but I think DevOps is a new cool word. What do these guys do? Well, they pretty much handle the whole infrastructure and all the engineering needs behind any company. What type of computers do we need? How many computers in the cloud do we have to start? How do we fix this latest security bug? How do we back up the database every day so all our information isn't lost? DevOps engineers also manage a lot of different engineering workflow and processes to make the developer's life really easy. Usually you start requiring a DevOps engineer when your system gets really big. Then you need someone just to manage the system itself. 12th type of software engineer is the full stack developer. I really don't like this term too much, but it's like a really common term used mainly by startups to describe a certain type of software engineer. This is a huge umbrella-like term again, and it could mean a lot of things, but when people say full stack developer, what they usually mean is someone who can know basics of a web application framework, knows how to manipulate a database a little bit, and can write a little bit of front-end code. Full stack developer doesn't really represent a particular skill set, it just represents this idea of you can get things done. Okay, so don't read into this a little too much. Full stack developer, what this really means is that you can just do a little bit between different types of software engineering. Last type of software engineering, which I think are the coolest type of developers, but these are the compiler and language guys. The majority of software engineers, probably you or me, we use languages to create applications. On the flip side of that though, there are a certain set of people that specialize and create the actual language itself. Someone created C, someone created C++, someone used C++ to create Python. There are tons of different languages out there, and between one language, there's also multiple ways of implementing one language. You probably use Python or Ruby, but do you know what implementation of Python or Ruby you're using? These type of engineers really study the fundamentals and organization of how a computer language is actually structured. It's pretty crazy stuff. I'm also grouping the compiler people into this whole group for compiler and language developers, but those guys are writing the compilers that really turn all these cool languages down to machine code that your computer can run. That's all I had for today, which was 13 types of different software engineers. There's probably a lot more types. If you can think of any more types, just let me know. These are just 13 that I came up with this morning. As you guys go about learning new things, learning new frameworks, learning new languages, I think everyone just gravitates towards a certain type. Don't feel like you have to be locked into just one type of software engineering. There are so many types, and you really can choose what you think is most fun or what you think is most rewarding. Alright, so I hope this video was useful. It's a little hard to give the day by day, but now that you know, the different types of software engineering. Maybe it answers some questions on what you might be interested in. So hope you enjoyed the video. Again, just give me a like if you liked it, give me a comment if you have any questions, and please subscribe to my channel for hopefully super helpful videos. Alright? Catch you guys next time and take it easy.